One day, the last person who remembers you will die. Your name will vanish. Your memories will rot in silence, and the world will keep spinning, unmoved, unimpressed, unbothered. They won't write books about you. Your smile in that photo, gone. Your dreams, your trauma, your journey, gone. The Instagram captions, the pain you carried silently, the love you gave recklessly, it all dissolves like spit in rain. You think this is pessimism? Number, this is arithmetic. This is biology. This is history. Billions of lives, forgotten. Brilliant minds, erased. Children who laughed in 1943, crying under bombs, forgotten. Entire villages wiped by time, not tragedy. And now you, eating cereal, scrolling through meaningless content, pretending there's a deeper point. There isn't. Emil Cioran, one of the most dangerous thinkers of the 20th century, didn't whisper this truth. He screamed it in silence. He wrote not to inspire, but to expose the cosmic insult of being born. We are accidents in a universe that doesn't know we're here. And the worst part? He's right. Everything you cling to, success, legacy, identity, is theater. A theater built by people desperate not to go mad. This video isn't about sadness. It's about truth. The kind that ruins your appetite and wakes you at 3 a.m. Because only when you finally admit that life is shit, can you begin to ask the only question that matters. Why keep living at all? Let's talk about it. Let's stop lying. Let's follow the voice of someone who dared to tell the truth and didn't flinch. No animal has ever sat on the edge of a bed wondering if life is worth it. Only you. Only the cursed creature called human. This is not because you're special. It's because you're broken. Consciousness was not a gift. It was an accident. A neurological malfunction that made a species aware of its own decay. You don't need to believe in God or read Schopenhauer to feel it. You feel it on a Monday morning, in the long silence after laughter fades, in the eyes of someone smiling just to survive. Emil Cioran called it the wound of being. Consciousness is much more than the thorn. It is the dagger in the flesh, the trouble with being born. We're told it's noble, this ability to think, reflect, analyze. But what if it's a disease? What if the first organism that realized it existed marked the beginning of cosmic tragedy? Think about it. Every creature eats, mates, dies. That's it. But humans? We invent meaning to distract ourselves from the fact that we're just rotting matter in slow motion. We study ourselves like bugs under glass. Psychology, neuroscience, philosophy, entire fields built to dissect the inner storm. And what do they find? Crisis, depression, cognitive dissonance. They find that happiness is unnatural, that the brain clings to survival, but not to peace. Only optimists commit suicide, optimists who no longer can be. Why does a wealthy CEO hang himself in a mansion? Why does a teenager with 1,000 followers slit her wrists quietly in the bathroom? Because knowledge ruins the game. Because clarity kills fiction. Your brain wasn't built to make you happy. It was built to keep you alive, even when life is unbearable. That's not design. That's mockery. Cioran understood this deeply. He knew that consciousness is a malfunction that mimics transcendence. It gives you the illusion of freedom, but only delivers contradiction. You are aware enough to suffer, but never powerful enough to escape. You think this is dark? No. This is the air you breathe. You just stopped noticing. If humanity learned anything from its past, we wouldn't have one. We praise history as a teacher. We build museums. We hold ceremonies. We teach children about never again. And then we do it again. Slaughter, rape, slavery, silence, on repeat. Like a sickness that forgets it's terminal. Emil Cioran didn't romanticize history. He stripped it naked and spat in its face. The history of mankind is the history of its horrors, a short history of decay. Think about the 20th century, the so-called century of progress. 2 world wars, Auschwitz, Hiroshima, gulags, genocides in Rwanda, Cambodia, Bosnia, hundreds of millions dead not by disease but by ideals. And what did we do with that blood? We built better smartphones. Human beings don't evolve. They adapt their savagery to new tools. They use pens instead of swords, algorithms instead of chains. And yet the cruelty remains unchanged, just rebranded. Utopia is the grotesque invention of those who believe in solutions. What solutions? Democracy? Capitalism? Communism? Each one soaked in betrayal and corpses. The only constant in history is that no system survives without feeding on human delusion, and eventually, human flesh. Cioran saw clearly. Progress is a myth told by those who profit from memory loss. Each generation believes it's the last to be foolish, and then it becomes the next to destroy. And how does this relate to your life now? You live in a time of peace, they say. But how many lives were crushed to make your convenience possible? The lithium in your phone, mined by children. The clothes on your back, stitched by the forgotten. The cheap food, grown in silence by people who no longer dream. History isn't something you read, it's something you eat. And if you think this is just pessimism, ask yourself, what has truly changed? We have apps that deliver groceries in 15 minutes, but we still can't stop killing each other over flags, gods, and imaginary lines. Cioran didn't hate humanity. He saw it too clearly to romanticize it. He knew history is not a record of wisdom, but of waste. Time is the substance of which we are made, and it devours us. So we march forward, not out of purpose, but because we don't know how to stop. The universe doesn't know your name, and worse, it never cared to. From the first breath, you're handed a script. Study, work, love, achieve, believe, reproduce. But underneath every line is the same unwritten truth. None of this is necessary. The sun rises not for you, but because it must. Earth spins, indifferent to your prayers. You chant affirmations to the void, and the void doesn't blink. Yet we invent meanings like addicts invent excuses. Because we can't face what Cioran dared to say out loud. Meaning is the ultimate fiction. Without it, we go mad. But with it, we stay asleep. The trouble with being born. Religion, nationalism, identity, all placebo. Temporary scaffolds for a crumbling psyche. Even love, often marketed as the purest form of purpose, is rooted in biology and survival algorithms. Strip it of poetry, and you're left with a nervous system chasing oxytocin. Purpose isn't found. It's manufactured, under pressure, by trauma, by indoctrination, by fear of the abyss. You were taught that life must be about something, that it must lead somewhere. But what if that hunger is the sickness itself? Even science, our great secular savior, fails here. It explains the how, but stutters at the why. There is no grand narrative, no cosmic justice, no final reward. Entropy will erase every footprint, even those left by prophets and physicists. Cioran's clarity is painful because it burns every false comfort. We long for meaning like we long for a parent in the dark, but the cosmos is an orphanage. So why do we keep pretending? Why do people preach positivity while medicating their despair? Why do we cling to ideas of growth, success, and legacy while secretly fearing we'll die empty? Because truth, real, raw, terminal truth, is incompatible with stability. Societies depend on shared hallucinations. Remove the myth of meaning, and the whole mechanism shudders. But here's the part no one dares to admit. The absence of meaning doesn't create despair. it reveals it. And that revelation is not a curse. It's the first honest breath you've ever taken. The pharaohs built pyramids. You posted a tweet. Both will disappear. One just takes longer. You were born inside a dying species on a decaying planet orbiting a cooling star. You will live for a flicker, a trivial interruption in the stillness of time, and then vanish completely. And the world will go on as if you were never here. No statue survives the wind. No memory survives the silence. And no name, no matter how golden, defeats erosion. We are born to be buried in the ground, in each other's minds, in the dust of unrecorded time. Cioran, the fall into time. We are taught to strive for meaning through remembrance. Make your mark, they say. Leave a legacy. But legacy is the narcissism of the doomed. A desperate trick to delay the awareness that even the most radiant flame dies in the dark. Who remembers the greatest poet of Mesopotamia? The kindest soul in 10th century Sudan? The most brilliant thinker of the year 1129? No one. Forgotten not because they were unworthy, but because forgetting is the law. And yet, people perform. They smile, record, archive, build. Not because it matters, but because stopping would mean admitting it never did. Cioran recognized this instinct. To want to be someone is the vulgarest of ambitions, a short history of decay. Your face will blur. Your voice will disappear. The data on your hard drive will degrade. Your loved ones will die, and with them, your echo. Eventually, the earth itself will forget, swallowed by sun, silence, or some blind catastrophe. Even our greatest attempts at permanence are laughable. We carve names into stones as if stones weren't temporary. We write books knowing most will never be read again. We build monuments and we bomb them a century later. Insects don't care about legacy. Idiots don't suffer from obscurity. But you know, that's the curse. That's the wound. To be aware of your vanishing while still having to breathe through it. And when Cioran said, "We will be forgotten like idiots and insects," he wasn't being cruel. He was being precise. Only when nothing matters are you truly free. All your life, you've been chained by things that don't exist. Meaning, legacy, identity, purpose. These illusions didn't comfort you. They controlled you. They made you anxious, obedient, and afraid of failure. Afraid of death. Afraid of simply being. But once they collapse, once you admit the absurdity, the randomness, the insignificance of it all, something unexpected happens. You stop pretending. You no longer need to become anything. You no longer need to justify your existence to a world that was never listening. And in that collapse, in that nihilistic silence, emerges the rarest thing of all: autonomy. He who has lost all hope is free to do anything. Cioran, the trouble with being born. This isn't a call to self-destruction. It's the opposite. It's a release from the torture of expectations, from the idea that your life must amount to something. It doesn't. It never had to, and that's why it can now be yours. You can walk away from roles you were forced to play. You can let go of dreams that were implanted, not chosen. You can laugh at the absurd, because you no longer need it to make sense. You are not healing. You are not ascending. You are simply awake. Cioran knew that the end of hope is not death, it's lucidity. And with lucidity comes something no doctrine can offer: peace without lies. To live without hope is to cease to fear. The new gods. What's left then if there is no meaning, no history worth repeating, no self to preserve? There is breath, there is absurd laughter, there is rebellion in continuing, not because it matters, but because you choose it despite the fact that it doesn't. This is not a message of optimism. It is worse and better. It's the truth without anesthetic. And if you've made it this far, it means some part of you was ready to hear it. So go ahead, keep breathing. Not for legacy, not for love, not for meaning, but because you weren't asked to be here. And you don't owe this life anything. If you've made it to the end of this video, I don't need to explain what that means. You felt it. Something in this strange, silent pain we call life spoke to something inside you. And that connection, however quiet, is real. The truth we explore here isn't comfortable. It doesn't sell happiness. It doesn't promise meaning. But maybe, just maybe, it gives us something rarer, the courage to look at life as it is, and still keep breathing. This channel was created for minds like yours, lucid, raw, tired of lies. And if this content matters to you, if it gives voice to the thoughts no one around you dares to say out loud, then know this: you're not alone. Becoming a channel member means you're helping me go deeper, darker, and bolder, with more time, more research, and more honesty. It means you believe that truth, no matter how painful, deserves space. Members also get exclusive content, early access, and a direct line to the creative process. You become part of the engine behind everything. If you prefer, the Super Thanks feature is a way to send a signal, a gesture that says, "This mattered." It's a small act, but it echoes deeply. And even if you can't or don't want to support financially, just watching, commenting, and sharing already means more than you know. It keeps this message alive. It keeps it reaching the ones who need it most. You don't owe me anything. But if this video gave you something and you want to give something back, now you can. Stay lucid, stay defiant, and above all, thank you for being here.